Am I the a-hole for leaving home after my husband hid my daughter's dad's voice message? I, female, divorced my late husband, Jack, 10 years ago. We both remained on good terms, and he was always there for our daughter as he adored her so much. He suffered from cancer, had a rough period, and he always said that our daughter was the reason he kept going. Unfortunately, he passed away 4 years ago. This tragedy was devastating. Everything I have from him is treasure for our daughter, and she keeps the majority of his belongings. She thought it was unfair that her dad suffered so much. She was living with me and her stepdad, Kevin. Kevin has been the most supportive one during those rough years, and he always shows my daughter love and support. Anyway, my daughter announced her wedding date. Kevin and I felt so excited for her and her fiancé. Before Jack passed away, he gave me a recording of his voice as a message for our daughter and wanted me to give it to her on her wedding day. He said he just wanted to make her feel he's always there with her. I only told Kevin about it. He didn't think it was a good idea because my daughter may get upset being reminded of her father's passing. He suggested we wait till after the wedding. I politely asked him to respect that I'm honoring her dad's wish, and he apologized afterwards. Last week, I noticed the USB stick where I keep the voice message was gone. I looked inside the box and all over the house but found nothing. The wedding is next month and I felt helpless. I searched everywhere. Kevin denied seeing it, but yesterday I discovered it was hidden in his old wallet. I was shocked, so I asked him, and he said he took it and was planning on giving it back after the wedding so my daughter could listen to it. I yelled at him asking why he'd do this, and he defended himself by explaining that my daughter might react negatively after listening to the voice message on her wedding day, and I might be accused of ruining the wedding. I was furious. I had a huge argument, then he said he was trying to help me make the right call. But the call isn't mine to make. I packed my things and left after he kept saying I was selfish and can't be reasoned with. He called my sister to tell her about our argument and how unfair I was by how I reacted to him offering to help and support his stepdaughter. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. He's lying to you too. This isn't about her reacting poorly or him trying to protect her. He's trying to protect something, alright? His ego. He's jealous of a dead man's connection to his living adult daughter. Also, he didn't think it was a good idea because my daughter may get upset being reminded of her father's passing. Does he really think she would be missing her father on her wedding day? Because I'm like 99.9% sure that she will feel sad about the fact that her dad won't be there to celebrate with her. So, I doubt that hearing her dad's voice on her wedding day will ruin it for Opie's daughter. My grandmother, I was real close with, died 10 days after my 21st birthday a couple of years ago. Every birthday or holiday I have had since then, I did feel a bit sad that she was gone. Having the chance to hearing her voice again would actually be really nice. And if there is a chance that the daughter will not want to listen to her dad's voice at that moment, I'm pretty sure that Opie won't force her. But that is the thing. The daughter can decide for herself. Opie's current husband wants to make that decision for his stepdaughter without her knowledge. She's old enough and does have agency. Not a-hole. I think Kevin is worried that he won't get the attention as father of the bride, because chances are Jack's recording would be a fairly hot topic. I do think you should let your daughter know about the recording at least a week beforehand. On my wedding day, I was an emotional mess, and if something like a recording my late father made for my wedding day was sprung upon me, oh man, I don't think I'd be able to recover in time for ceremony. I like this idea. There is so much going on a wedding day. She might want it a couple days beforehand, so she can take time to listen and process. Not the a-hole. Oh my god. He's jealous of a dead man. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Not the a-hole. That was not his call to make. I don't know what his true motivation was, but it feels possibly like jealousy. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for suggesting a prenup to my sister-in-law? My brother passed away 8 years ago, leaving my sister-in-law Nancy and their son. Nancy remained very close with our family, in part because she has inherited my brother's share of the family business. We were happy to hear she found someone new about 8 months ago named Drew. Today, they came to my parents for a family get-together and surprised us with an announcement. She's engaged. What puzzled us all was that the date is set for 1 month from now. Trying to pry some more information about the timeline, I said jokingly, "That's awfully fast." Doesn't even give your lawyers enough time to review your prenup. Haha. Not verbatim, but the gist. And I fully admit I just blurted the first thing that came to my lawyer mind, which was not very tactful. Drew took a mortal offense to the implication they are getting a prenup. He said they're serious and committed, and if you know it's right, it's right. And that I'm being bitter seeing my brother being replaced by another man in Nancy's family and letting emotions get the best of me. I was floored, but explained that I am not questioning their commitment. But as someone with experience in this area, I believe it's prudent in Nancy's case to have a prenup. First, she is a part owner of my dad's business. Next, she owns a house in a high cost of living area and was the beneficiary of my brother's life insurance and pension benefits that added up to over 1 million euros. It's a substantial nest egg, and she has a teenage son to think about. What if she dies? Will he force our dad to buy out his share of the business? And tank it in the process because he may not have enough liquidity to do so. How about dividing the house and the estate between him and my nephew? Depending on how they manage their assets, this may also mean that when she rebalances her stock portfolio in the future, he may then lay claim to the money that my brother left for his kid and wife. There's a million different pitfalls and variables to think through. I said they are not in their 20s starting their lives with a blank page. They are 40-something adults with complicated financial situations and quite a bit of assets. They need to talk to a professional, not me because of the conflict of interest, about debts and financial obligations, and yes, about a fair prenup that protects them both. Edit. Should have also said protects my nephew as well, but hindsight is 20/20 as they say. Drew said I'm overstepping and left. Nancy was quiet for a bit, and then said perhaps she needs to take some time to think through everything, but thanked me for chiming in, and then she and my nephew left as well. My parents said we could have handled this a lot more tactfully, but agreed it was also sudden. The whole conversation lasted like 5 minutes and took me by surprise, so we barely got our thoughts together. My parents didn't even get a chance to say anything. Am I the a-hole for voicing my opinion, though? I don't think I was, but perhaps I did overstep. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law's reaction is telling. She hadn't considered it, and it is a substantial amount of money. His reaction, combined with hers, makes me wonder if he's been a bit pushy with the relationship/engagement. Your delivery was blunt, yes. Maybe a private conversation with her would have been better, but it needed to be said. Yeah, Drew's immediate explosion is really fishy. Either he's emotionally immature and can't communicate in an effective way to say, "OP, your comments are hurtful," or he's nefarious and specifically doesn't want a prenup. Either way, sister-in-law needs to be protected. I might get downvoted for this, but here's the reality of prenup agreements. Mostly, men seek them. It's beginning to change, but it's nowhere near as common for a woman to get one as it is for a man. Even among people with assets, house, business, etc., men are by far more likely to have their future spouse sign a prenup. The general defense is that it's just a smart thing to do and she has no reason to be offended or reluctant. Women, however, are usually very reluctant to even broach the subject of a prenup with their fiancé and fear or actually go through with it. Because they believe, correctly, their fiancé will be angry. Men do not like being asked to sign a prenup. They get incredibly offended as it's humiliating to them. Prenups are for gold diggers. Translation: prenups are for women. Not Dayhall. I think this says it all. Nancy was quiet for a bit and then said perhaps she needs to take some time to think everything, but thanked me for chiming in. Drew is either really clueless or he is a scoundrel and Nancy needs to think on that. I frequently suffer from foot-and-mouth syndrome. I vote not Dayhall. You quickly recovered and pointed out there are a lot of things that need to be settled before the wedding. If you would have pointed out the same thing for a friend as you did your sister-in-law, then no harm, no foul. I would reach out to sister-in-law and make sure there are no hard feelings if she felt embarrassed or anything though. Oh yes, I am giving her a day to think things through, but we'll reach out and apologize. And thank for that foot-and-mouth syndrome comment. Gave me a chuckle and broke some of the uneasiness I've been feeling all afternoon. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be the babysitter at my friend's wedding? So I, 22 female, love babies. I always wanted kids, but I want to wait until I'm married to have them. I don't mind watching kids at all. But I dread going to an event, and everyone just dumping their children on me just because they know I like kids. My friend is getting married this fall, and she asked if I could watch her kid during the wedding. I said yes, because he would be 2 by that time. Her kid liked me, and he's just a chill kid overall. Last month, my friend and a couple of others had lunch together to plan more of her wedding. I was at work and unable to attend. They decided that since I was okay with watching the bride's child, I should be okay with watching everyone else's kids too. They decided to set up a daycare-like area at the venue where I would watch the kids. I didn't even know they planned this until yesterday. I told my friend that I would only watch her child. That's all I agreed to. She argued that since I work in pediatrics and I actually like kids, I should have no problem handling 7 to 10 kids. I told her no. I only agreed to watch her child because it was her wedding. I tried to reason and say that if the other parents were willing to pay me for watching their kids, then I would be fine with it. But she said that she didn't want to make them pay for something that should be free. Am I the a-hole? I kind of feel like one now because she said that 2 families aren't coming because they were under the impression there would be free childcare at her wedding, and she's saying I ruined her wedding. Everyone else is telling me to just be nice and help her out because she's already stressed enough. Now for the top comments. Do not go to this wedding. And to hell with your friend. She is not a friend. She's a user. Not the a-hole. I also wanted to point out that this friend paid for a venue that is large enough to accommodate an area for daycare that is presumably separate from the ceremony and reception site, but never budgeted for her childcare or anyone else's, and now wants you to do it for free. Oh my god. Not the a-hole. It's customary for babysitting at weddings to be free for guests, but the babysitter still paid for it. And why would you go to this wedding just to be a babysitter? You wouldn't be able to enjoy your friends at all. This is a crazy ask of your friend. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna get dressed up, do my hair and makeup, buy a gift and a card, drive to the venue, all to watch children the whole day for $0. Okay, yep, no problems there. I'm petty, so I'd enthusiastically apologize and agree to watch the kids. Then on the day off, block them all, throw on some comfy clothes, grab some food and a drink, and binge on some Netflix. Forget fake friends. Who needs them? Not a holopi, but don't go to that wedding. It isn't worth it at all. It's a pity you can't make that wedding after all, isn't it? Yes, great Aunt Gertie needs to be driven home from the hospital that day. It can't be helped. If your so-called friend isn't grateful for you minding her child, why would you go at all? As for signing you up to mind up to 10 kids for the day, that's pure Rahal territory. As for the people telling you to just be nice because the bride has enough on her mind, tell them to feel free to volunteer in your stead, because you won't be there at all at this rate. I honestly won't go at this point. She's not answering my phone calls or responding to messages. I already took the weekend off, so I may go hiking instead. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not attending my sister's wedding to avoid our terrible parents? My 23 female, sister 28 female, and I grew up with horrible parents. Mom's a mean drunk, dad's an enabler, and her enforcer. Everyone's got mental health issues that they can apparently handle and therefore don't need therapy. Spoiler, they do. I was a quiet kid, and I don't know if the denial gene just happened to skip me or what, but I left home not long after my 18th birthday and never looked back. I was broke for a while, but hey, at least I didn't live in a madhouse. Plus, I found free therapy. I didn't talk to my parents at all, and only rarely talked to my sister because she's still very much the golden child of the family. Anyway, things are great now. My sister ended up realizing that I made the best choice for me. And even though she still has a really good relationship with my parents, she says they have mellowed out over the years. She doesn't really talk about them unless it has to do with her directly, like mentioning that our mom is babysitting her son or something. My sister and her longtime boyfriend, the one she has her son with, are getting married next year, and I was invited to the ceremony. I thought about it long and hard, but I ended up saying no for the following reasons. 1. If our parents are there, which they will be, it will make me vastly uncomfortable to be around them. 2. If our parents are there, they will be, it will be the first time they see me in 5 years. And 3. I don't want the reunion of me and my parents to be the focal point of our wedding day, as I am almost entirely certain it would end with a fight, because, well, they're crap. I pretty much said it exactly the way I just typed it out. I don't try to hide my disdain for our parents, but I also don't go out of my way to badmouth them. I was just being honest to say, hey, I don't like or trust these people. Can't be around them, even though I love you dearly. She said she'd talk to my parents, and they said they'd be willing to tell her when they're leaving, so that way I can show up after they've gone. But that sounds like not something I want to do. I don't like having a game plan that involves them at all. And even if I did, I could see my mom and dad leaving at 7, me showing up at 7:30, and then surprise, they never left at all. I do not trust their word. She told me that she's really hurt by my decision not to show up and support her, and asked why I've put her in this situation where I refuse to compromise and she has to be the go-between. I insisted that she doesn't have to, but she feels torn. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It says a lot that your parents are not reaching out to you to make amends and they would rather leave the wedding. It sucks you were put in this position. I mean, it's probably better that way given Opie doesn't have to interact with them at all. No a-holes here. Honestly, you and your sister are in a horrible position. You don't want to make the wedding about you, but she desperately wants you there. Could you compromise? Invite the two of them somewhere to do something special? I don't know, just a thought. I think this is a good idea. Emphasize to your sister that your feelings, which are totally valid, aren't the biggest issue. But the fact that your parents are likely to cause a scene and you want her wedding to be memorable for good reasons, not bad. Your mom is an alcoholic and her behavior will be unpredictable.
My now ex cheated on me because she thought I was going to break up with her. So for a little backstory, I, 33 male, had been dating Sarah, 32 female, for 6 years and loved every second of it. We were literally soulmates, and so obviously I was going to ask her to marry me. I had seen loads of crazy wedding proposals on YouTube and TikTok, so I knew this was something I wanted to get perfect. Eventually, I decided that I would take her to a really expensive restaurant, and when we got back, I would have a beautiful display with loads of flowers and a sign asking her to marry me. I even had a speech prepared. So when the day came, I was all dressed up in a 400-pound suit, and when I told Sarah we needed to go, she came downstairs in a t-shirt, jumper, and jeans. This upset me quite a bit, but I didn't tell her because last time I commented on her outfit, we had an argument and I just wanted this day to be happy. Once we were in the car and halfway to the restaurant, Sarah told me she felt ill, asked if I would pull over at the pharmacy and get her some paracetamol. Thinking nothing of it, I obliged. However, when I came out of the store, my car was missing and there was an envelope addressed to me where the car was parked. Inside the envelope were pictures of her naked with another man, and a note that said she knew I was going to break up with her, so she decided to cheat on me and leave me before I could do it to her. Can't even write what the note actually read, because there were some words in it that would get this post taken down. I have no clue where she got this idea from. Obviously, when she arrived home and saw the display I had set up in our room, she realized she had made a massive mistake. About 10 minutes after being abandoned, I got a call from her. She started the call by claiming it was a big joke, but when I mentioned the pictures, she became really apologetic, and then followed up by telling me she can't wait to get married. I hung up and called my friend and asked if I could stay the night, which is where I am writing this from. I've got no clue what I should do. Now for the top advice. So she cheated, took picture to cause a lot of pain, then stole your car. Don't take her back. She cheated. Didn't care if she hurt you because she thought you were going to dump her. That's nuts. But be careful she doesn't show up pregnant, and if she does, get a paternity test before anything. I think it's pretty obvious you shouldn't take her back. Right. Her first choice was to cheat on you, OP, instead of communicating with you. That is a bright sign that she is not a good partner for you, or even a good person, my dude. If you take her back, she is going to cheat you every time she thinks there's major problem in y'all's relationship, or you'll always feel paranoid that she will again, anytime y'all have rough patches. The marriage would not a healthy relationship, but a toxic one. Marriage is work, and she is already demonstrating to you how she deals with problems. I mean, if she really thought you were gonna break up with her, she would know she could have slept with another dude once she was single. But instead of rationally communicating her fears, she wanted to be the first to hurt you in the worst way. That is toxic. Do not, I repeat, do not take her back. I'm just thinking that she just randomly had some dude lined up to bang, and willing to take pics of it. No, that guy has been in the picture if any part of her story is true. It's not that she thought you were going to break up with her wearing your dress clothes during a fancy night out, so she banged a random dude. It's that she thought you had caught her having this affair, so it didn't matter to her to escalate it for maximum carnage. I think it's pretty easy to find someone to cheat with as reasonably attractive person, especially for women. All it takes is a couple hours, if that, on Tinder. That said, your version sounds much more likely. Don't do it. I understand you are upset and want things to go back to normal. You might be trying to spin this and defend her by telling yourself she only did it because she thought you were gonna hurt her by leaving. Get those thoughts out of your head. If she really thought you were gonna leave, this was the worst way to break up with you first. She cared more about getting even and hurting you back than trying to fix the relationship or making the breakup amicable. She is probably trying to tell you that she really does care about you and things can go back to normal. However, her actions have shown she is selfish. She broke your trust. Getting married isn't gonna make her magically trustworthy again. Run far away, dude. Cut her out of your life. And let your support network know what happened. Anyone who tries to break up like this is not stable, and I wouldn't trust them to not spread lies about what happened. Everything about this, yes. You need to leave her. You deserve better. Way freaking better. My heart breaks for you, man. I can only imagine what you're going through, especially to have so much excitement shut down by a low act. Leave and never look back. Let her rot in her own guilt and shame and move on. You deserve it so freaking much. Next story. My 43 male, partner of 15 years female 38, admitted to having a drink too much at a work party and kissing a coworker, and I ended it and moved out. Now I'm being blamed. In August, she came back from a 3-day workshop in another state, and she was not really herself. I thought she was tired or having a work issue that she'd rather not discuss, so I acted normally and never brought it up. Early September she said we need to talk, then confessed that after the work thing, everyone went to the hotel's bar to celebrate, and that someone kissed her and she kissed him back. She said she had drunk wine, and says it wouldn't have happened without the alcohol. We've been together for about 15 years, neither had the desire to have children, so we have none. I always treated her with respect and trusted her fully, and the few disagreements we had over the years were silly nonsense that we worked out immediately, and never even had one event that amounts to a fight. Still, cheating is and has always been to me a definitive and immediate relationship killer. I knew exactly where I stood, and didn't even think twice before telling her that I appreciate her honesty and the fact that she did not want to continue living a lie, but that it was over, and I'll begin moving out in a few days. I couldn't stay with her in the same place and needed time to take in the shock, so I went and stayed with my mother and let it all dawn on me. It was painful. I felt immense betrayal. I thought about the best years of my life that I wasted with her, and the times I shut down attempts by women or left immediately when I felt someone was becoming flirtatious, and I just felt like an utter fool. Anyway, I got calls from mutual friends and her family, and I remained very respectful to her, but told everyone that I can't recover from something like that, and that it's over and no hard feelings. I then went back while she was out, and took a few pieces of my own clothing and books, and left everything else. Did not want to look petty and take any other items, even the things that I bought, which is basically pretty much everything since I always wanted to be the provider. That was in October, and since then I've been slowly recovering psychologically and getting back to my normal routine, and I think I will be alright. Naturally, I remember things from all the years we've been together and I feel deep dark sadness, but I don't miss her nor want her back, and I can't imagine being with her again now that I visualize her kissing another man. I am thoroughly repulsed. The problem is that people on my side, a couple of my own friends and a few family members, have begun telling me that I was mistaken, and they just couldn't tell me that during the tougher times when my world was crashing down. I hear things like, a single kiss is nothing, it's not like they hooked up or even made out, you can't throw away 15 years for a few seconds of weakness, and the one I get the most is one form or another of it was the wine. As much as I'd like to claim that I'm totally confident, and no words by anyone would make me doubt myself, they succeeded in making me wonder if I'd reacted in the wrong way. It takes time for my change of address to take effect, so she still gets my mails and bills and calls me, and I go to pick them up and act politely but very robotically. She still tells me that she's sorry, and that she'd do anything to get another chance, but the betrayal keeps replaying in my head and it's horrific. I don't want to be with her ever again. Now I'm neither looking for affirmation nor blame. I'm seeking your honest opinions no matter what they are, and I can take it no problems. Don't spare my feelings or anything. Just tell it as it is. Thanks you. Now for the advice. The problem here is that most cheaters trickle the truth out. They say just a kiss, then you find out more the more you dig. You made the right choice because chances are far higher that a whole lot more happened than just a kiss in those 3 days. This is exactly what my father told me when he came for Christmas, and he's been in this life for 82 years and have seen it all. He said in most likelihood that more happened, and she was just testing my reaction with a hint of truth. Your father sounds like a wise person. If I were you, I would be shutting the people down that are pushing you to reconsider. One time, okay, I'll humor you. Do it again, then we won't be seeing each other again. After all, at the end of the day, you make your own choices in life. She chose to, at the very least, make out with someone other than her partner. You chose to end things because of that. Live your choice and don't allow anyone to tell you different, friend. You get to decide your boundaries. She broke them. Breakups are deciding that staying with a partner isn't in your best interest. It was right for you to break up because that was what you decided for yourself. They would have done something different. Whoop-de-freaking-do, it's your life and your decision, and the only wrong decision here would be staying with her when you knew you didn't have the capacity to move beyond this. That's just breaking up with more steps. You don't need to worry when she's late from work. You don't have to worry about what happens at a Christmas party. You don't have to check when she was last active on Messenger. You made the choice that was best for you. That's what people should do in your position. This is extremely comforting. Thank you for this. Don't let people guilt you into going against your values. Only you know what you will or will not tolerate, and a kiss is definitely cheating. You are strong for doing what needed to be done despite the heartbreak. That's true strength of character. My husband and I have both said over our almost 15 years together that any form of cheating would be an immediate deal breaker for either of us as well. Like you, I think my feelings would just instantly dry up upon hearing it. The people telling you it was just a kiss. What about the choices that led to the kiss happening? What about her behavior made this coworker think this was okay? Why was her response to kiss him back? If someone came at me trying to kiss me, my reaction would either be to move or slap them, quite honestly. Drinking a bit of wine is not going to make you start randomly kissing people, and if it does, then I am pretty sure that is something about yourself you should be aware of as an adult, and shouldn't put yourself in situations like that. That's the crux of it for me. I would never put myself in a situation where cheating was an outcome. I understand everyone has different boundaries and whatnot, but it sounds like you have been clear with her about yours, and you feel how you feel. Don't let others pressure you into going against your own instincts. Last story. I'm tired of my boyfriend making me feel guilty about my privileges. I, female 26, have been dating my boyfriend, male 28, for around 6 months. We met through a hikers group, and we really hit it off from there. Turns out we have some mutual friends, and so we as a big group would get together and do weekend hikes and camping trips often. Hiking and camping are something that I started around a year ago. I was not an outdoors person, but it's kind of nice to just be out in nature, and I'm glad I have a new hobby. I still think that I'm more of a city girl. I like going out with my girlfriends, and I like trying new restaurants. My boyfriend has been hiking and camping practically since he was a child. It kinda is his one thing that he loves above all else. I then discovered that this is basically all he does. He really doesn't have any other hobby besides just hiking and camping. He's got a job working for a big outdoor retailer. The money is crap, but he enjoys it. I have my own apartment and I have my own routine, while he has roommates that he lives with. He will help me clean around the place when he's here, but I am never over at his place because it's a mess. It bothers me that he's over so often because I want my own space too. But when I brought it up that he shouldn't spend the night every night with me, he was so upset, and I basically have to sit down and explain that I just want my own damn space too. He's also upset at my spending habit. He thinks that I spend too much money on useless things like expensive groceries, my yoga and Pilates membership, my nails, my hair, etc. But I don't see the big deal. It's my money, so I can use it how I want to. Even when we go out to eat, I have never once asked him to pay, because I know that I have expensive taste and he can't afford it. I'm graduating this month, and I will be starting a job at a Big 4 accounting firm. My parents are so proud, and I am proud of myself too. They got me a vacation, and they gave me first-class tickets as my graduation gift. They didn't get my boyfriend a ticket, and when my boyfriend found out, he kept ranting about what a waste of money it was, and how that money could be used to feed people or help less fortunate people. I was upset. It was a gift from my parents, and they can afford it. I know I'm fortunate, but I still shouldn't be made to feel guilty about the nice things I have. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Think this over carefully. Do you want to have to answer to someone about your expenses when you are paying your own? He sounds exhausting, and an exhausting judgy leech at that. He's not worth it. There are definitely red flags for OP to be aware of, that her boyfriend will sabotage her entire future and take over the things she does for herself as his own. He's just an absolute parasite who is less capable of adulthood than OP is. Some partners can be helped, but if he thinks he is here to be the one to help OP, he's just dangerous all around for her self-sufficiency. He resents her for making more money. My awful ex would do this. It is an attempt to make himself feel powerful, and it will not stop. And he never pays for your dinners ever. Gee, you think he would at least once, with all the money he has been saving. Run, girl, run. You two are equally yoked. He wants you to settle for the lifestyle he can afford, rather than working to allow you to maintain your lifestyle if you are together. This is going to continue to be an issue. Y'all don't even live together yet. Can you imagine living with a man who is messy and doesn't clean after himself, but will tell you that hiring a cleaning service is excessive? Yoga and Pilates are not extravagances. And yet, he also seems mad that she refuses to be his meal ticket, no trip present for him from her parents, and he can't stay over every night yet. He wants to be indulged, but also retain the right to be cheap and self-righteous about it. Edit and update. Wow, this post really blew up, so I have a few updates. I do pay for my own expenses in my own apartment. I do have a full-time job on top of school. My parents did pay for my tuitions, however. While my parents are well off, they are never first-class tickets people on the regular well off. This was a huge gift from them for my MBA. I told my boyfriend that if he wanted to find a different path, I would help him find a counselor and looking for enrolling at a community college. I even offered to help him because I do care about him and I want a better future for him. He said, and I quote, "You're gonna work for the man, and you're now trying to change me into one of them." So, he is now my ex-boyfriend. I see now that we are not compatible. Thank you everyone so much for your support. I got a few laughs out of some. Shout out to the guy who warned me about the busy season. It's going to be hell, but at least they gave me a signing bonus.
Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband's brother to be in the delivery room? I'm currently 31 weeks with twins, a boy and a girl. My husband and I are both 21, and we're trying for a baby for about a year before we fell pregnant. I've had a pretty rough pregnancy, and my brother-in-law is a medical student. He's 24, so has taken quite a lot of interest in my pregnancy and future delivery. We've always gotten on well. I've known my husband's family since we were children, so we've pretty much grown up together. A few days ago, my husband told me that my brother-in-law had expressed an interest in being there whilst they gave birth, mainly due to it being beneficial from an educational standpoint to see a natural multiples birth, which is what I'm planning for. I know things can change on that front, but hoping for that. Also, so my husband can have support as I'll have my mom. Worth mentioning that our hospital doesn't have a restriction on the amount of people can be in the delivery room. I said absolutely not. There is no way in hell I'm allowing that. I'm not even overly keen on allowing my husband to watch me go through that, let alone his brother. He said it'd be good experience for him at his degree, and I said that as much as I supported him, my experience of having a pleasant birth was my priority. He got defensive and said he should be allowed to have a support person too, which I suppose I do understand, but I really just feel uncomfortable about it all. He said it was just as much his right as it was mine to have someone there to support him. It basically turned into a huge argument, with his brother and mom being dragged into it too. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I am actually creeped out that your brother-in-law even wants to be there. There is just something so wrong about it. You're the one who is about to have her vagina ripped apart while two humans shove their head and shoulders through it. What you say goes. Do not give in on this. Congratulations on having twins, and I wish you a smooth labor and delivery. Thank you so much. Just gonna hop on here and say I see tons of these posts, and it always takes me back to Grey's Anatomy when Callie was disagreeing with Arizona and Mark ganging up on her with the voting. So she gives the baby a vote. Since she carries baby, she votes for baby. And since her vagina is gonna push said human out, it gets extra special vagina vote. So she outvoted them. Tell him if that he is willing to get naked, lay on the dining room table, grab his ankles, and let your dad stare at his a-hole for an hour. Then you will think about getting his brother in the delivery room. Birth is hard enough. Don't let him bully you into this. The only person who is important during birth is the one doing it. And as a doctor, his brother should know that a patient's desire trumps her extended family's. I would also let him know this decision is already final, and if he brings it up again or tries to sneak him in during, that he will not be welcome in the delivery room either. Not stay home. And if he thinks he needs a support person for him, then he needs to not be in the delivery room. His logic doesn't make sense. If his brother-in-law is there to support your hubby, then he won't be able to focus on learning. If his brother-in-law is there to learn, then he won't be able to focus on supporting hubby. Please note that I'm saying this as a father who was in the delivery room. You want as few people in the room as possible to avoid getting in the way if something goes sideways. In addition, most doctors aren't keen on having a medical student who is also family there because they might try to second-guess treatment and get in the way. If you really need an out, send a message to your birthing doctor and tell them to make a statement that they do not want anyone besides mom and dad in the room during the birth. That's another one of my concerns, actually. I love my brother-in-law, but he's a complete know-it-all. There's not a doubt in my mind that he'd try and instruct the doctors in some way. I'd be mortified. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my husband for the burnt beefsteak I cooked for him? With a little update. My husband 30 and I 32 keep our finances separate and we do not share anything until and unless there's an agreement. He wants it this way and I'm okay with that, although he can be strict with what's his and what's mine. Anyways, 2 days ago I brought home a raw steak cut. It asked me to take time off work and work from home to cook it for him, and I said okay since he was a bit sick and exhausted. I prepared a steak and added all ingredients together, then put it inside the oven. Then stopped by the bedroom where he was lying in bed playing on his phone and told him I had to go back to work and the steak was in the oven and he needed to turn it off in exactly 10 minutes so it wouldn't get overcooked since he hates it overcooked. 40 minutes go by and my husband rushes in freaking out telling me he just checked on the steak and it was completely burnt. He asked why I didn't turn off the oven 10 minutes after I notified him, and he says to me that he was busy harvesting the strawberries at the game he was playing. I just shrug and tell him this is on him then for being on his phone distracted and letting the meat burn. But he says to me, well, no doubt it's your fault because when you start something, you finish it and you were supposed to finish cooking the steak. I immediately reminded him I agreed to take valuable time off work to cook for him when I didn't have to and when he was playing on his phone, so he should be grateful. He gets more upset and says that I need to pay X amount for the steak since I bought it from the butchers, so it's high quality and like the supermarket. But I said no, this is not my responsibility. He then tells me that yes it is, and that I should think of it as I took money from his salary and burned it. Not to mention that he gets no dinner, therefore I owe him. I lash at him telling him no and get out of my office so I could finish my work, since my time is valuable as well as his precious steak and he was wasting it. He keeps insisting I pay for the price of the steak and even said I was wrong for refusing to take responsibility and correct my mistake and just pay. Because he wants to buy another cut of steak but does not plan on using his money again, because why should he? He wasn't the one who cooked and let the steak burn. Am I the a-hole? Added to explain that separate finances is his idea, and the reason for that is that he was married to a woman out of the US, and she took all his money and belongings once they got separated. In an illegal way, of course, thus he now feels uncomfortable to share finances with another partner, which like I said is okay with me since I have many married friends with separate finances who are living happily. Not today, home. Tell him to eat the freaking strawberries he was busy harvesting. Opie, stop babying him. Stop taking care of him. Stop doing special favors. He does not value you. This argument is ridiculous. He was playing on his phone and wanted you to cook for him? Why did you say yes? It sounds like your husband is used to getting what he wants. When was the last time he did something considerate for you? Not today, Hall, but maybe it's time for some counseling for you to work and why you feel it's okay for him to make demands of you while you were working. I'd send him a bill for the time it took out of work to prep a steak and argue with him, if he's going to be like that. Separate finances is one thing. This nickel and dime nonsense doesn't sound sustainable. How long are you going to give him to decide that you're not his ex? Oh boy, where to start? 1. Incapable of recognizing he made a mistake. 2. Incapable of completing a simple task because he was doing something inconsequential. 3. Trying to flip blame on you. 4. Incapable of acknowledging the importance of your work and your time, much less respecting it. 5. Am less bothered by your division of finances, and more concerned by how he penny pinches when it benefits him. Honestly, it seems you should go for a walk by yourself and take a step back, to carefully reevaluate what other red flags you have ignored, and if this way of life is worth it. Don't plan on potential, plan based of what's already there. Agreed. He's deflecting anything bad to Opie while failing to respect her time at work. Eek. When you divorce the strawberry harvesting and grateful of your efforts and unable to tell time aficionado of fine beef products, you have to get the best lawyer you can afford, because he is going to try so hard to nickel and dime you. Make him sorry. Not today, Hall, and I'm sorry you are unappreciated. Go out and buy yourself a personal-sized fine steak and make it yourself. And don't share. Little update. Too many people on here commenting and I can't read every single comment. But I just wanted to say that I showed my husband a thread and he wanted to tell you guys something. But I didn't let him touch the phone and type by himself because I know how rude he can be online. So I'm just presenting a more civil version of what he wanted to say. He says that he thinks the comments he's seen are being unfair to him and completely pushing aside the fact that A, paid money for a steak cut, and B, that I agreed to cook, and so he thinks I should have finished the favor. He also says that I left out a part where I suggested he get a cheaper steak from the supermarket. I did, which was offensive because he spends time driving to the butcher's and money to buy a fresh steak, and eating at a steakhouse is expensive. Also, he says to the top comment that he doesn't like fricking strawberries. That is why I can't eat them. I think that's enough. He's pressuring me to give him my phone so he could type out what he wants to say, but I believe all the relevant info is here. I'll update if possible. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for sternly telling my wife I get to invite whoever I want whenever I want to my house? My wife is a stay-at-home mom while I work full-time. We have 2 kids that I help do 50% of their care while she handles cooking and cleaning and the other 50% of childcare as well. I'm sociable by nature and I'm fast at making friends, whether at work or outside of it. The problem my wife has is that I invite friends and coworkers, guests, over every few days to my house for dinner or lunch. Restaurants aren't an option now due to budget. My wife said she has to cook for my guests, though I never tell her to cook this or that, nor ever complain about her choice of meals because it depends. The guests eat whatever she feels like cooking, yet she complains that she has to cook for extra people, which takes effort and time. And also, since I sit with the guests, then she has to serve them by bringing coffee, / preparing the table, / etc. since I told her I don't do these chores. But I thought that since this is her area of responsibilities, then where's the problem? I invited few guests for Thanksgiving, 6 people, and when she found out, she lost it, saying I should have consulted her first. I said there was no need, because they just eat whatever she cooks, no problem. But she said she wasn't going to agree to cook a large portion and for 6 extra people. Aside from serving them and handling hosting, that is too much for her. I told her she was making a big deal out of it, and should just stop freaking out over a few extra plates and glasses and whatnot. She said she didn't agree, but then I eventually had guests over, and after they left, she started yelling at me saying she was not invited my guest's server, and that I should stop having them over. That is when I told her very sternly that it's my house, and I get to invite whoever I want whenever I please, and called her unreasonable to react like that, instead of being welcoming to the people who wanted to spend time with us, and like her family cut us off completely. But she shouted that she was done with being on my beck and call, and having to be forced to take care of my guests in terms of serving and cooking, just because it's her part of chores. That if I want to continue to have guests over, then I'll have to step up and cook for them myself, which I thought was quite rude and unfair for her. We went back and forth in this argument, and she then stopped talking to me and started giving me the silent treatment, making me feel like I'd committed some sin by having guests over. Info. I just wanted to explain that my wife's main issue isn't about cooking itself, but having to cook extra for the guests, which is understandable, and I try to compromise by suggesting we set time limits for when my guests visit to avoid having to include them in dinners and whatnot. It also suggested we limit the frequency of those visits. But she stated she will still have an issue with it, and gave me the options of either handling the hosting myself, or just completely stop having them over or take them out to restaurants. But then restaurants consume money, and she was the one who advised against going to restaurants. Now for the comments. Bro, you're the a-hole, especially if you aren't helping. You're doubling or tripling her workload of keeping a regular house while you sit on your butt, while expecting her to take up all the slack of meeting the expectations of a proper host. It's also apparent that you don't cook, because there is a significant difference in cooking for, let's say, 4 people, and cooking for 10 people. Just because they will eat what you cook doesn't mean that you have nearly triple the amount she needs to make. And then on top of that, it made more complicated as many dishes take longer to prepare properly if you need to make large quantities. Never mind all the dishes and extra work after the meal, which, let me guess, you don't help with those either. Seriously, if you don't understand the complexity of the work she does, you can shut the hell up or do it yourself. Because I'm certain if she refused to feed your guests, you'd be the first to decry how poorly she's behaving as a wife and hostess. Oh wait, she did threaten that. And now you are decrying it's her responsibility. Where do you think the food she is cooking anyway comes from? Do you believe she has the power of Jesus and is able to feed 10 people from the amount of food that would normally only feed 4? Do you even know how to use the oven and stove? The sin isn't having guests over. The sin is not understanding the work your wife does in the household and not understanding that while all you do is eat the food. How much work goes into preparing a good meal, being a good host, and all the cleanup afterwards. And then when your wife explains it to you being too much of an a-hole to figure out that feeding all of your friend is a lot of extra work, even if she isn't changing the menu for the day. If you don't even have the ability to cook at her level for 10 plus people at a time, you definitely better shut the hell up. Your wife is completely in the right here. Jesus, man. Absolutely you're the a-hole. How did you do a Reddit post from 1953? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for tricking my husband to coming to a school event and inviting her to my house? My mother and husband hate each other. That's the most basic way to put it. Truth is that my husband feels that he is treated as less than my other sibling spouses because of his skin color, and my mother feels that he is way too dumb for my standards. However, I personally feel that my mother does not show any favoritism or harsh treatment of my husband. Because of this, my husband cannot stand my mother and has recently begun to even be in the same room as her. Oh, your mom's going to be at Christmas. I'm going to a friend's house. Oh, your mom's going to the kids' event? I'll just stay at home. Frankly, it's insanely demoralizing for me. And I hate my husband when he backs out of something just because my mom is going to be there. And it's worse when he demands that my mom not go because he wants to be there. In my opinion, he's the one with a big issue. He should be the one to leave the kids' events. Recently, one of my kids was having a big football match and he wanted his father there. My mother also wanted to be there, so I tried telling my son that he couldn't have his father there. He was adamant, so I told my husband that my mother was not going to be there. He arrives, and obviously so does my mother, and they are immediately bickering. He makes a comment about how racist my mother is, and then she fires back saying she was never racist. I told them to shut up and sent my husband to sit somewhere else for a while. I decided that since the game ended late, I'll bring my mom back to my home and make her some dinner. My husband threw a hissy fit over this and was screaming about me always choosing my mother over him. And I was like, of freaking course I'm going to put my mother over my husband. She's the woman who single-handedly raised me and 3 other kids. She's literally a goddess for not giving some of us for adoption. My husband stormed out and I'm left wondering if I've done something wrong. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. She thinks he's stupid. Why? Your son asked for his dad to be there, not your mother. Sounds like you're the one with a favoritism issue, considering you decided to have mom there anyway. Edit. I skipped over the last part. Holy hell. She's a goddess for not giving you or your siblings for adoption? Get your head out of your mother's bottom. Yes, Opie's drunk a narcissist Kool-Aid. Either that or the mother wrote this. Info. Why and how does your mother's wish take precedence over your son and your husband? This entire post is fully insane, but this one is truly bewildering. Your son wants his dad there, not his grandma. So why is she trying to uninvite dad instead of grandma? I truly hope her poor husband escapes her and takes the kids too. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband to stop disrespecting our surrogate? Me, female 34, and my husband, Hunter, male 37, suffered from fertility problems. We recently decided to get a surrogate who's a friend of a friend. We were busy getting everything done legally, and we already had a contract in place. My egg was used, so no worries in this regard. Plus, our surrogate is a respectful, kind woman who's been keeping her part of the contract intact. But it's Hunter who's starting to act strange. I've noticed that he's been focusing all his attention on our surrogate, like skipping work to visit her or get her things she didn't ask for, chat with her all the time on social media, and also constantly offering to do things for her, like drive her places, and sometimes even invite her out or offer to repair stuff for her. She complained to me about this, and even told me about things he's been doing that I didn't even know about, like bringing her gifts. I tried speaking to him about what this looks like, but he said that he's doing what he's doing for his son and not her. Still, I asked that he tone it down and respect the woman's space. He got mad at me and accused me of being jealous of the woman who's carrying my own child and said that this makes me look bad. I said our surrogate was the one who complained about his behavior, and I said that this wasn't true. Apparently, this made him somewhat angry, so I gave him time to cool down a bit. Yesterday, our surrogate called me saying that Hunter came over and told her guests to leave. I asked why, and she said that he wanted to show her the $9,000 car he bought for her. I was shocked. She said she declined the car and asked him to leave, but he started arguing with her about using public transportation and risking our baby's well-being. I was fuming. I called him demanding to get home, and he did eventually. Once he got back, I picked up a fight with him and yelled at him saying that he's been nothing but overstepping, disrespectful and inappropriate towards our surrogate. Again, he explained that the car wasn't for her but to ensure that the baby's safe. I told him to stop disrespecting the woman and stop using the baby as an excuse to stomp all over her boundaries. He ranted about how he was just trying to make this work and that I should do the same if not more. He even accused me of not loving our son as much as he does. But this isn't the way. And putting $9,000 for a car without telling me? He left the house for a while, then came back and refused to speak to me. I might have been hard on him. He might have just been oblivious. So I'm less sure seeing his reaction now. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. This is upsetting behavior. It's one of two things. 1, he has a crush on her, or 2, he thinks he has the right to police pregnant women's bodies. It's inappropriate regardless. You should quietly assist her in getting an attorney to draft a cease and desist letter to him. You may or may not get the baby, but frankly, I'm not sure your marriage, specifically just your husband and his odd behavior, none of your doing, is in a place to need a baby right now. Eileen is the second. He wants to completely control this woman because he is the father of the baby. And he will control every move Opie makes when the child is born and in their care. Can't drive in a car, too dangerous. Feed it this, not that. Can't go there, can't do that. Not stay home. Reading that creeped me out on a deep level. He sounds like a stalker that's obsessed. Does he not realize that stressing her out by being intense and domineering could harm the baby? He needs help and possibly a restraining order. Agreed. It gave me the creeps. A 37-year-old that can't understand how he isn't respecting another person's boundaries is a red flag. Not stay home. He's actually endangering the successful arrival of your son because he's not only causing stress to your surrogate, he's also making her so uncomfortable that she might seek legal recourse to break the contract. Maybe schedule a formal meeting with lawyers and her surrogate so she can express her needs officially? That might be a way for your husband to actually see the severity of his behavior. I feel for the horrible position Opie's in, but I have to mention here that it'd be pretty freaking monstrous of her if she in a way tried to prevent her surrogates breaking the contract, should she, very rationally, decide to. Imagine being in a position where you are legally bound to carry your stalker's fetus to term. I'd terminate it by whatever means necessary. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ditching my wife at the mall because she was taking too long? I'm a 34-year-old man and my wife is 29. We have been married for 5 years. Since we started dating, she has always taken her sweet time doing everything. Getting dressed, doing her makeup, eating, whatever it is, she takes forever. I'm generally a patient person, but I get extremely anxious when I'm late for something with a scheduled starting time. Alone, I've never been late for anything. With her in tow, I'm late for everything. The most frustrating thing about this is that she seemingly has no ability to comprehend that she's making people wait. If I even suggest that she move a little faster, she gets really defensive. A few years ago, one of her best friends dumped her because she was tired of her chronic lateness. Last night, we went out to see a movie. Getting to the mall before the movie started was a battle itself. But miraculously, with the prospect of doing some shopping before it, she was able to gather her necessary belongings and get there with time to spare. She started shopping while I more or less followed her until it was about time to get to the theater. When I told her this, she was talking to a sales clerk about the clothes that she wanted to buy and she told me to hang on for a second. As usual, hang on meant I have absolutely no concern about your needs because I'm doing my own thing right now and anything other than what I want to do is out of the question. I waited around for a couple more minutes until she started taking jeans off the shelves to try new combinations. The previews had already started. I told her again and she said we can just skip the previews. At this point, I just walked away, which she naturally didn't notice, turned off my phone, and enjoyed the movie myself. As a side note, I missed the first few minutes of it waiting for her, standing in line and making my way to the theater. On my way out of the theater, I saw her on a bench in the lobby beside herself because I ditched her. I honestly didn't feel bad at all and told her that I'd do it again. This made her more upset, and finally, we had an awkward, quiet drive home. Apparently, she was actually looking forward to the movie too. Was I the a-hole in this situation? I felt it was supposed to be tough love, but she seems real hurt. Not the a-hole. This is what you have to do moving forward. Tell her that you're leaving in 15 minutes and follow through. One warning, then go. Stop discussing and explaining. Start showing. Though in the future, send a text, I'm at the movie and I'm sitting center right. Turning phone off now. This is exactly what my parents did with my older sister when I was little and she got old enough to drive. The family's leaving at 6. We'd love it if you could make it. People who are constantly late like this have absolutely zero respect for anyone else. Not the a-hole, and sometimes this is just how you have to manage to be on time to things living with a chronically late person. Yes, it's not chronic lateness, it's chronic disrespect for OP's time, which is most definitely the a-hole. OP's not the a-hole. She knows she's chronically late and makes no attempts to change that. She's putting her wants ahead of other people's without consideration for their feelings. She's disrespecting OP's time and takes his patience for granted. He disregarded his suggestions and requests completely, trying on jeans when she's already late. She doesn't take OP into account when doing things her way, but is mad at him for doing something on time. Not stay home. Initially, I was sympathetic to your wife as someone who's also chronically late. However, when you described that her response to you informing her the previews are starting was to go try on more jeans, I lost all sympathy. That's not chronic lateness, that's chronic disrespect for other people's time. Not stay home. Chronically late people that have no issue ruining other people's plans because they live in their own self-centered world need to realize that, shockingly, the world doesn't in fact revolve around them. I honestly don't know how you've put up with it for so long. That type of disrespect would drive me bananas. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband that I am pregnant before I told other people? My husband, 37 male, and I, 38 female, have been married for 6 years and have a 3-year-old son. For the past couple years, we have been on the fence about trying for a second kid. With everything going on in the world and both of us approaching 40, we just weren't sure if we had it in us to have another one, and we knew that we both wanted to be 100% into it if we did. But we both grew up with siblings and wanted our son to have that experience as well. However, my husband got laid off about 4 months ago, and that was kind of the final nail in our decision making, and we decided that he would get a vasectomy. With the stress of the holidays after his layoff and a time-consuming job search, he procrastinated on scheduling an appointment. He finally got around to scheduling one about a month ago. Well, turns out that a couple weeks ago, I noticed I had missed my last period. With everything else going on, I completely spaced it out. I took a pregnancy test and it came back positive. It was definitely a surprise. And at first I was overjoyed, but then I remembered that my husband had literally gotten the snip only a couple weeks before. I made an appointment with my doctor, and sure enough, I was about 10 weeks along. I didn't know how to tell my husband or how he would take it, considering everything else that we had going on, so I told my mom and talked to her about it. She didn't give the best advice, so I talked with my 2 best friends about it too. They gave better advice, and the next day I told my husband. He was happy and supportive, and just kept saying that he would make it work, and not to worry about anything other than our growing family. This past weekend, we had some friends over, including the friends I talked to about a pregnancy. After we had dinner, my 2 friends were talking with my husband, and I overheard one make a comment about how happy they both are that my husband took the news so well, considering everything else we are going through. He played it off well, but I saw him shoot me a look. After everyone left, he confronted me about it and asked what my friend meant by that. I told him that I talked with him and my mom about how to tell him I was pregnant, because I wasn't sure how he would take it. He got upset that he was the first, well, second, person to know this very personal and life-changing bit of information. I tried to explain that I was worried he wouldn't be as happy as he is because he literally got his vasectomy 2 weeks earlier and is still job searching. He told me that I should know him better than to think he wouldn't be happy and said he was offended that I would assume otherwise. I apologized and he seemed to accept it, but I could tell that he wasn't happy about it and that his feelings were hurt. I was just so confused and I needed to talk to someone. Was it an a-hole move? How could he not be hurt? He is the father, literally half of what is growing inside you. I understand your concern about telling him, but you owed it to him to be the first. You're the a-hole. Softly, but there it is. You're the a-hole for sure. And look at his reaction to learning this. He didn't freak in the moment, but addressed it at a time when they were alone. He didn't mind that she talked with her mom first. If that's what Opie meant by second, it was unclear. He took the actual news well. He accepted her apology. The dude sounds like a legitimate good guy. Opie, on the other hand, has a lot to learn about consideration for other people. You're the a-hole. You've been married for 6 years, and you already have a kid together. No matter if he would get sad or happy, he should hear it first, and you'd have to figure it out together. This isn't the time to keep secrets from each other because you're scared of how you're going to react. This, and if it would be the other way around, you would have been hurt and probably mad if he wouldn't have told you, if roles were reversed. No a-holes here. His feelings are understandable and legit. I can see feeling a little upset that my wife felt that she couldn't talk to me about something like this. On the other hand, I get how you were feeling and needing to talk to someone about it. I think you owe your friends a sharp kick in the shins though. They should have kept their mouths shut. Acknowledge his feelings, but don't downplay yours and it will eventually blow over. If you try to marginalize his, it will blow up, believe me. Last story. Am I the a-hole because I don't want my brother to enter my house? I think some context is necessary here. My parents are divorced. My mom lives at another state. I have my own house and my dad lives with my younger brother at a different city where I grew up. Matter of fact, me and my brother hate each other, and I'm not kidding. He uses every opportunity he gets to make a joke and defend me in front of our family and his friends. Because of the pandemic, my dad asked me to come back to their home. He was afraid, so I accepted and stayed for almost 2 years, because I love my dad. My brother made my life miserable, and it was so awful that I said to my dad's face that I'll never come back to that house again. So let's go to the history. My mom comes to visit me once a year. Last time she came, my brother came here to see her and he insulted me so bad that I had to get him out of my house. The whole situation gave me a panic attack. Months before my mom's arrival this year, I warned her several times that I do not want that guy at my house. She could meet him at the beach, the mall, whatever, I don't care, but I don't want him around me. But one day, I came from work and he was here. She let him in. For the next days, she would force me to let him come and making me go out with him, saying that I miss both of you, he is my son too, you guys must get along, and it's my only time of the year with you, can't you just ignore his insults? Because yes, he was doing that. 5 days of that. It's gone by now, but me and my mom have been fighting over this. She says that I'm an a-hole for not considering her feelings, and because I ruined the meetings with my bad humor. The whole family is saying that I should shut up and swallow it because my brother and her deserve time together. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell her that she can visit your brother at her father's place. When she says she doesn't want to see your father, tell her to shut up and swallow it because she deserves time with her son. I like this solution. Not the a-hole. Your mother and brother are though. Your brother for obvious reasons. Your mother because she is allowing her son to mistreat you because of her own selfish wants, not needs. She doesn't need to see you together. She just wants to. Opie, learn to stick to your no. Anything she brings up after that should be met with a I said no. I would say to Dad too. Opie was subject to her brother's abuse for 2 years in Dad's house and he allowed it. Also, the entire family for saying that Opie should just put up with it. I wonder if any of them ever stuck up for Opie when they were humiliated in front of the family. To be honest, it sounds like this is a golden child and scapegoat dynamic. I know this is going to sound like victim blaming because it is, but you're kind of the a-hole to yourself. You allowed yourself to be mistreated for 2 years because you love your dad. Your dad, I'm sure, loves you, but not enough to stop his toxic son from tormenting you. You could have left any time, but martyred yourself for 2 years. Your mom didn't force you to let your brother in. She coerced you, probably by guilt tripping. I get how powerful emotional terrorism is, because you could have asked your brother to leave and even have asked your mom to cut her visit short. That way, you could have established a boundary and sent a clear message. Not stay home. Don't get me wrong, your family are the main a-holes. Your mom can see your brother elsewhere. You don't get disrespected in your own house. That is your safe space. If your mom keeps arguing with you, can I suggest asking her to leave until she can respect your authority in your own house? You need to change your relationship dynamic with your family, and that requires actions, not words.